Many roads throughout this country were trails used by the Native Americans. Old State Road is one of them. It was an old Cherokee trading trail that went from Charleston all the way up to Columbia, South Carolina. There is a bridge on Old State Road that Confederate soldiers tried to burn before the Union troops tried to cross over into Columbia to burn the city. There are many urban legends about this bridge and the road itself. There was said to be 1,500 men that died along this road. When driving down this road, figures can be seen walking the sides of the long, dark, and dusty road. There is said to be lights floating around the water, and also a story of a being with red eyes that float near a huge tree near the bridge. There is also a set of train tracks that when you stop on them and put your car into neutral, the car will slowly move. But here in recent time, a group of ghost-searching teenagers were out in their car and they decided to try this out. Little did they know it would not work out in their favor. So I'm hanging out at my place near Drifton, North Carolina. Not doing too much, because it's my day off. I have a story coming up in 3 weeks, chasing down a story about some kind of Mothman out in Jersey area. So having the day off, and I'm going to take advantage of it. I'm going to sleep and eat all the foods that I can't while I'm on the road. It's a calm day and I hear the phone ringing in the other room. I slowly make my way to the phone that just won't stop ringing. Hello, I say into the phone. Hey, Kahl, it's Steve. Oh, hey, I say, as if I were surprised. Okay, smart guy, he said with slight agitation. Do you want to hear the story I have for you or not? Depends on what it is, I guess, I say. Very funny, he says. Anyways, there's been a series of people getting hit on a set of train tracks. Okay, so what do you want me to do about it? Sounds like people don't know how to drive to me, I say. And that's the thing. All these cars were parked on the tracks on purpose. It's down a supposed haunted road, and even the tracks are haunted by a bunch of kids that were hit while they were riding on the bus. Okay, so you got these ghost nuts trying to see if these urban legends are true. And then reality hits them. For real, I said. The date is May 23rd, 1994. A joyful bunch, and there was no doubt that this was a non-sober group. These kids decided that they were going to go and test the fates that night. Old State Road is a long stretch, and that depends on the area, and that also depends on the creature. For instance, down towards Calhoun County, there's a cat-like beast and an old haunted house that has some wild apparitions there. I've actually been there, but not at night. I didn't have the stones then. Of course, I was just a kid myself, so... Anyways, so these kids, they were up for some fun. They got off on 321 and drove down the side of the road that led down to the tracks. They had the bright idea of taking some baby powder and put it on the bumper, and to see if there were any handprints of children moving the car. So one of the teens gets out and pours on the baby powder nice and thick, just to make sure that they wouldn't miss anything. The kid jumps back in the car, and they wait. Silence. There's nothing going on at all. The goth kid of the group talks and says that it is all fake, and that it isn't real at all, and they should probably just go home, as told by the only survivor of the wreck. Said person has also been put into a coma, so before he faded, he told the story to the police. Hawk and I are loading up the car. So dude, we are headed to West Columbia to see about a set of railroad tracks. Railroad tracks? Hawk asked. Yeah, I sighed. There's a myth that if you park on the railroad tracks and put it into neutral, it will move forward. Wait, Hulk interrupted. Now wouldn't the inertia move the car forward anyways, he asked. I'm not sure, I said. Could be, but nonetheless I'm headed out that way. 'Cause it's been more than just one vehicle. It's been 4 so far. The tracks haven't been used for about a quarter of a century, so it's gotta be something going on out here. Yeah, but what? Hulk asked. Well, from what Boss says, it was an old battleground from the Revolutionary days, and even during the Civil War. Something like 1,500 Confederate troops died there. And then, before them, there was the Native Americans, Oh, I got you, kid. So you want me to come down for some fun? Hulk asked. Well, yeah, I say. Come on, dude, it'll be fun. Yeah, sure, he says in a slow drawl. I remember the last time. Yeah, well, I don't think we're going to deal with the same bull as last time, I say. Oh, yeah, you think? He says. I say, yeah. Man, it's a bunch of ghosts and not some cryptid that's been, taking kids. Well, this time. But whatever it is, it's killing people straight up. So what do you say, man? Do you want to go and see what's up? Or hang out at the shops and stare at flatties all day? You got me there, he said, chuckling. I'm in. Good, I say. Now, once we get some gas, we'll be lit out like a lizard drinking. You've been watching too many movies, Hulk says. I grab my gear, and we finish loading up the Stang and hit the road. Gaily bedight, O gallant knight, in sunshine and in shadow, had journeyed long, singing a song in search of El Dorado. Over the mountains of the moon, down the valley of the shadow, ride, boldly ride. We hit the open road with some Papa Nez tunes just a-pumpin'. I have 2 12s and a lightning pack that keeps my sounds juiced. Well, musically, that is. As for the rest, all I need is the tight songs and stiff breeze blowing through the car. As Sally drives along the Smoky Mountains, I get a glance at the sunny mountains down by the silver streams. To hit the open road. I'm as excited about this next song as Elvis Zipsar is excited about his next song. So let's get down and boogie. As we make our way down to Columbia, I get Hulk to break out directions to our destination. I usually pen out my routes on the map and then write down the roads that I need to turn on. As I meander along the winding roads besides the tall mountainsides and deep drop-offs, that would not be so much fun to ride down. Granted, one could get there pretty darn quick, but then there probably wouldn't be much left for the angels in heaven to identify. You gotta keep your eyes peeled and stop as fast as possible without going into a doom of greenery that would beat the car down and slam it into the trees on the side of the mountain, as well as the passenger. Keeping my groove on while we take these fun curves, and mind, there are hardly any side rails that might help, so don't bet your life on it. As I start to get closer to the cabins that my uncle has for rent, and such a heck of a sight that makes you almost want to move up here. Almost. But I can't dig these curves because it reminds me of driving out in San Francisco, out in old California. I drive the last leg to my uncle's place. I look to my right, and I see the sun-beaten stream that I can make out in between the set of trees every so often. I know I'm getting close now. This river is in a movie about a fugitive. Heck, my uncle got to meet the cast and even serve them lunch at his Gardenia diner. My uncle is a chef, and he has always treated the family to his incredible meals. And when I was younger, we were set up in the apartment, the one over the place that he once stayed. It was a 2-story that was built on the side of a mountain and would overlook a stream. And it was glorious to stay there as a kid. I remember running through the nearing fields with my cousins and would get covered in beggar's lice. It was great. My parents would holler at me, but heck, I'm a kid. What am I gonna do? Life was fun. We would also see how far we could get by standing on the side of the mountain and throw rocks into the river. It hardly seems that any time has passed since I had played on those blue North Carolina hills. As I passed the local gas station on my right, I drove down a little ways until I get to a steep road at the end of the strip. As I crawled down the muddy side street, I pull up to my uncle's cabin. Maratwe, I yell out so my uncle could hear. Maratwe, hakane nanaka, he asks as he walks through the front door. Tsatsa, tired but here, I say somewhat slowly. Nah, he said, it's only like a 2-hour drive, fool. I had a long night with Uncle Evan and didn't hit the hay till about 3 in the morning, and it was up around 9, I say defensively. Whatever, kid, he says, smiling. Grab a cold one, but go inside and grab a fried bread burger. Unc made it fresh. He had shot a deer a few days ago. I groan and drool as I make a beeline for the front door. I yell through the door as I come in, "Where's the food?" It's in the oven keeping warm, I hear. Go help yourself, boy. You bet I will, I say as I walk to the stove and turn on the light and peek into the stove's window as if I were looking for a treasure at the end of a long journey. It's been a long time since I've had some home-cooked food, and some fresh kill at that. Bunny flour, I asked. What else? He said matter-of-factly. I grabbed the rest of the ingredients that I need for myself for this glorious deer fry bread. I may have to make another one before we head down to the Columbia area. I grab my plate and head outside and grab a rocker next to Hulk. I make a pig of myself and I'm eating the burger like there's no tomorrow. Slow down, Chief, Hulk says while he chuckles. Man, I can't help it. I am ravenous on this burger. It's been a bit, man. Do what you do, man, he says as he takes a sip of his condescending can. You never know when you may need to eat again. So I figured I would fatten myself up and we'll worry about the rest later. Meaning, my gut doesn't like dairy so much, so I have plenty of time hanging out with Uncle Johnny. But I digress. After a few colons, my cousin and I headed back inside to hang out with Malone and Susie and get as much time as I can with them. Maybe I can get some wisdom from them. So I'll tell them the run of it. And my aunt and uncle look at each other for a second, and then they burst out laughing. Great, I say, defeated. I look like another idiot to them. God knows what I look like to my readers. No, my aunt says in between bursts of laughter. I'll wait till you're done laughing at the piece that I have to write, I say defiantly. It's fine, kid, she says as she brings herself to some seriousness. But then she looks at Uncle and bursts out laughing again. As she howls with laughter, I am so sorry, she bursts out with more laughter. I just sit there and wait. The tears are flowing from Aunt Susie. She took a few deep breaths and sits up and starts to straighten herself. Sorry, kid, she said, getting a long gasp of air. I'm glad I can make your night a laughter, I said, giving her an eye roll and smiling. It just seems like a long-shot urban legend that won't be more than just that, she sighs. What she means, my uncle steps in and says, you just can't be chasing a story about nothing. It might just be that these kids were on a set of live tracks and didn't even know it. And then didn't even know the times that the trains would even come through. We really thought you would see that. I did, I said quickly, as my aunt and uncle gathered themselves and I grabbed a seat on the lazy boy chair that was set near the TV. I sit and kind of lose myself into the TV. They come over and sit on the couch too. And we watch TV for a while. The road to South Carolina wasn't going to be bad. The day was clear with a few scattered clouds. It was about 10 in the morning, and we already had a cup of coffee and plenty of food. It takes about 4 hours to get down there. Hulk decided he was going to man the radio. He had the case of tapes out and looking. You have some real toe tappers here, he said sardonically. Yeah, what's wrong with what I have? You got anything better? I say. Well, let me grab my bag and I'll show you. Or let you hear. Hulk says as he reaches into the back and grabs his canvas backpack. He pulls out what looks like a stack of tapes. Mixtapes? Really? I asked louder than expected. To the untrained eye, it looks like mixtapes, but these are underground. But these are underground tapes, and some unreleased mixes. He looks through the tapes and says with excitement, yes, the corpuses. He ejects the tape out of my stereo and replaces it with his. He cranks it. Nice, I say with real excitement on my face. Where's this been all my life, dude? Well, it's out there for anyone who looks for it. Gotta keep near the ground, cuz, he says with a smirk. We blasted the next 4 hours, almost literally. I'm sure it looked like we were a bunch of insane kids hopped up on something by the way we were bopping our heads. Or rather, I was bopping my head, cuz I was driving. Hulk, on the other hand, he was half tilt with the gestures. I have to say, heavy metal isn't for most, but for those of us who enjoy it, man, what a fun ride. Because these aren't the songs that are played on the radio or even available to the public. Getting close to Columbia, and the urge for food hits out of nowhere. I guess my subconscious knew that there was food ahead. And good food too, man. So many fried chicken spots, and the country cooking chains are good too. Nothing like good old Southern food. Well, nothing like good old food no matter what. We hit up the drive-thru of one of my favorite places and roll out with a deep sip of sweet, sugary tea that has been steeped for a good minute. Man, this is some good stuff. Anyways, I could go on about food for centuries. We take a quick detour to Old State Road. Well, I thought it was going to be a quick detour, but it turns out, as our luck would have it, it would finish up the investigation in one night. I decided to go down 77 and connect to it from there. As I pull off the ramp, my cousin turns down the radio a good bit. That way I can see where I'm going. I turn on the dirt road, and it says there's a church ahead. Where the dirt road ends is a small cul-de-sac. There was a satanic church at the back of Old State Road. It had burnt down around the 50s, and the Christian church has been built over top. But before then, it was a slave church. During the Revolutionary and Civil War time, it was a place of refuge. But before the Civil War times, and even Revolutionary times, the Cherokee, as well as other tribes. I'm not going to go into the history of it, but it is fascinating. We make it down the road slowly. A bit ahead is the set of tracks. That's probably where the incidents happen, I say in a wondering tone. Possibly, says Hulk. We keep moving forward, and there's lots of loose sand, and it's easy to get stuck in. But any country kid who is worth his salt knows how to get out of the thin sand. A few times, my back wheel gets a touch of this hungry sand trap. Actually, not far from here is the sand pits, and many have been lost in the southern desert. There are shafts that can take someone if they land a foot wrong. Same here. On the ride thus far, we haven't seen anything nefarious yet. There are also stories of people who shoot passers-by that go along this road. Some kind of redneck hideout or something like that. The lore in this area changes from person to person. As we continue down this dirt road, at what seems like a crawl, we come across the church that sits lonesome yet cared for. I can only imagine the church that was there before. You know, the satanic church? I wonder what that would have been like. And I wonder if they still continue their work under cover of night. No one is the wiser. It seems that I have a weird way with having weird seance things happening around me. I sure don't understand these summon the demon types at all, and it always baffled me. But I guess I haven't walked in their shoes, so I really can't say much. We get out of Old Sally, and we leave the doors open, because when it hits the fan, I don't want to be fumbling around in my pocket for keys. And I actually have a start switch for emergencies. It's not very hard to do. Just install the flip knob, connect it to the correct wires, and there you go. Bob's your uncle. We have our flashlights in hand. And I brought my handheld camera so that I could document anything I could. It helps when writing a story. We go around to the back of the church. Off to the left sits a small cemetery, and some of the markers had names, and others were just remnants of something that has long been forgotten. I'm sure there are other graves around unmarked, but step in any direction, one could be walking over someone's grave. The night seemed pretty steady, and we didn't feel anything out of the ordinary. As we crept along the open field of these poor humans' last homes, we decided to get a move on, and maybe see if we can get into the church. We hadn't seen any cameras or motion sensors, so we figured we were okay. We look around the back area of the church, and near a set of shrubs there was a cellar door. It was padlocked. You think we can get in? I asked Hulk. I don't know. I guess we'll have to see. How's your picking skills? He asked. Fair at best. I haven't had to do this in a year or so. Well, Hulk sighed. It's about time we see what you got, kid, he says with a sly wink. Gee, thanks, I say. So I reach in my back pocket and grab a couple of tools. I was really hoping that I could get in this rather quick, so I don't have to hear Hulk's words of wisdom that he would no doubt deliver unto me. I fidget with the lock for a few. It's not really easy, because it's not a standard side key, but it's a dual sides key. So 3 times I had to go through this to get the job done, after what seemed like forever and turning red as a beet, because a new Hulk was just looking at me. I hear a click, and I see the top half ring drop. Unlocked. Oh, ye of little faith, I say. Faith can move mountains, but it can't pick a lock, Hulk says matter-of-factly. It's open, ain't it? I say. Yeah, he says. Come see, come sa. I ignore the last little bit and take the lock out of the latch. I open the door and look at Hulk. Age before beauty, I say. Who says you're a beauty? Well, I guess you wouldn't make it a day in prison, he chuckled. As he leads the way into the dark cellar, we both enter and make our way down the stairs into the dark abyss. As the cone-shaped beacons of our flashlights lit the room in small pieces, we were able to see the room that is clear. Nothing in it at all. Why was it locked then if there wasn't anything in here? Maybe to keep kids out? Who knows. But as far as we could see, there wasn't anything going on down here. I took out my EMF detector. Now this piece of machinery reads the electricity in the closest area of the device. As I roamed the room with my EMF detector, I seemed to clear the room with zero movement from this machine until I get to the corner of the room. There's a stain on the floor, and I walk over to it with the detector. As I scan over the mysterious stain on the floor, which I can only assume is blood, the EMF read a high amount of energy as I pass over it. Well, this is interesting, because I haven't seen any kind of stain pick up the way that this stain did. After what seemed about 15 or 20 minutes, not much was going on inside besides the stain on the floor. The feeling was still thick and heavy. We decided to go down to the bridge and do some investigating, and I mean ghost hunt investigating. The kind where we ask questions with a tape recorder and see if we can get any feedback. We use the EMF also. Plus I have my night vision camcorder and a spare full battery that I have for emergencies. Because sometimes a spirit or apparition or ghost or whatever you want to name it, it uses the power from the battery source. Because it's energy and a good way to show themselves. They use as much energy around as they can. Most of the time it's from a power source that they can find. Oddly enough, they don't use currents from the main power source from a house or building or whatever it may be. Hulk and I exit the cellar. We ride down the clay and sand-covered road. As we pass along the road, the yellow glow from the headlights dimly light the path. The long grass and weeds of the fields are about 1.5 feet tall. Hulk hangs partially out the window with the camcorder, trying to get some footage as we go down Old State Road. I also modded this camera with the full spectrum lens to help catch things that we normally can't see with our vision. Some people have the gift to be able to see the spirits as well as animals. Kinda makes me want to get a dog so I have another set of eyes and ears for the paranormal. As I said before, there were at least 1,500 people killed along this strip, and it would be near impossible to not see or catch anything. Old Sally keeps growling along as the gears of the camcorder turn the tape inside of the camera, catching 24 frames per second. Hulk turns the camera around and gets a view from behind us. Not too sure if we are getting any evidence, but danged if we ain't trying. As I slow down a bit, I can see ahead a thin veil of fog, about 5 feet or so above the ground, and only about 1 yard thick. I have a feeling it might get interesting from here. The road seems lonely, but not that lonely at the same time. Through my peripherals, I can see movement on both sides of the road. We are, from what I can gather, about 1 mile or 2 from the bridge that the Confederates destroyed. I slowed down to about 45 or so. I turned the radio down again so I can see better. I rolled down my window and Hulk did the same. Hulk kept panning to the left and to the right. At a snail's pace, anything worth catching would be from here on out. I geared down to about 30 or so. Why? Because I could hear sounds around us. And yeah, I know that the windows rolled down create a subwoofer sound of wind, but this wasn't the sound of wind, but the sounds of talking and the sounds of human words being spoken. Hulk was manning the camera, and he was totally quiet, and all I could hear were deep breaths coming from him. "What is it, dude?" I say in a low voice. There are lots of figures walking around on the sides of the road, and heck, even in the road itself. "It looks like they're in formation and looking for something," Hulk says matter-of-factly. "Okay, word?" I question. "Not even kidding, man," he says. "Well, alright," I say. I continued to drive along the road, dropping my speed a little, so Hulk could get some good footage. We finally make it to the infamous bridge. I see it coming up ahead, and I pull onto 3/4 of the bridge, and old Sally shuts off suddenly. Shh. I try to turn the car over and nothing. Not even a click from the alternator. Come on, old girl, start up, I whisper to her. In the distance I hear a sound, like a group of birds, or crow calls actually. I keep trying to turn her over and in vain. As I just gave up, mostly because I knew what was going on here, the entity drained old Sally's battery, and we were kind of stuck out here with our skirts in the wind, as it were. I get out of the car and walk around looking for anything. Heck, I'm even going to put her into neutral and push her past the bridge. I tell this to Hulk, and we get back in and turn the key and put the old girl in neutral. I get out and head back to old girl's backside, and Hulk is there already knowing what I'm about to do. So we pushed the great Stang down about 1/8 of a mile, huffing and puffing all the way, and there are sounds of talking all around us, and we tried our best to push the car forward. We pushed as if it were uphill and barely making any leeway, as if something were pushing against us. But we held our ground, talking to the elders of the spirit realm to help us any way they could. We kept praying to our creators. We felt an ease lift off of the car, and we were able to push it forward and past the bridge. And as we let go of the back bumper, the car kept going forward about another 100 yards or so. I could hear the ground under the tires reach as far as it could before coming to a complete stop. We just watched the car as the taillights came on to life. And then the headlights began to flicker and cut on to full brightness. Actually, it seemed brighter than it would have been with the brights on. So we ran up to old Sally and jumped in and turned the car around in the middle of the street. And we faced the bridge and we waited. We waited until we felt it was safe enough to go over. Hulk grabbed the camera and started filming again. As he panned the entire 360 from the safety of the car, and Hulk was in disbelief on what was unfolding around us. He stops the camera and holds it there a moment. He takes the camcorder away from his eyes and squints. Hulk says kind of quietly. Red eyes, red eyes. What? Where? I look around and finally see 2 red lights or eyes about 20 feet or so off the ground and just swaying in the trees. What's that? Hulk asked. I am not sure, I say, but let's get out of here. I thrust the gear shift down into first and give it a heck of a stomp on the gas. The car seems to halter for a moment and then burst forward as it finally got some traction. We bolt over the bridge, moving from first and second gear swiftly into third, and we made a cloud of dust behind us, and we kept racing our way ahead and trying to not have the car die again. So we make it about half a mile or so at a decent speed. Hulk had grabbed the camcorder and started looking through it again. Dude, where'd they go? He asked. What do you mean? I questioned. He said, there isn't any ghost on this side of the road anymore. Odd, I say, almost to myself. Yeah, Hulk exclaims, looking at me instead of the camera. We keep breaking forth through the darkness, and with their headlights throwing shadows off the trees. All of a sudden, headlights behind us appear from nowhere. I know how to drive these roads, so I put old Sally into gear and punched it. She roared with excitement. Hold on, I tell Hulk. This is about to get rocky. I know that there are a few turns coming up because of South Carolina, and that's just how they roll. I have both hands on the wheel as I put my pedal to the metal and race down the back road to West Columbia. I come across the first curve. I let off the gas and place my right hand onto the brake and get ready for the partial slide I have coming up in about 100 yards or so. I turn the wheel to the left and pull the emergency brake only for a moment and slam it back down and press on the gas gradually, sliding sideways for a second, and catch some hard clay traction hits. I burst forward and seem to slow down the lights that are behind me about 50 yards or so. Dude, read the road for me. I'm gonna kill the lights. Okay, dude, Hulk says. He gets the camcorder set and says louder than expected. Ready? I turn the headlights off, and I am here to tell you that my heaviest door puckered up real tight. We spin around a few times, and we come to a complete stop. And Hulk looks around with the camcorder and sees headlights to our left. And he yells to gun it. I turned the wheel to the right as far as I could and pressed the gas down and slide a second or two. "Talk to me," I say, frantic. Hulk looks through the viewfinder and says to go forward. Okay, as I move forward about 50 feet or so, I can't see anything, not even a little, because my eyes haven't adjusted yet. "Put the camera up to my eye so I can see," I say. And Hulk puts the camera up to my eye. And I also keep my left eye open so I can be aware of both. I saw the road ahead of me better than the headlights that I had. I'm driving and I get this idea to make a glasses version monitor so that I can drive in total darkness and see better than ever. So I keep pushing forward and know that the guys behind me can probably spot me if they look hard enough. I see the curve ahead and it's to my right. "Curve," I say, so Hulk knows to embrace for it. I take the curve at a slow 35 or so. It is not as deep as the last one, but I had to be ready for some loose dirt that will make me spin out of control. As the tension of the steering wheel loosens, I know I can stab the gas pedal and dance beautifully. Another 70 yards or so, another curve pops up, and I take it gradually and keep going down the next mile in this fashion. The truck behind me seems to keep up at a decent pace. It stays a couple 100 yards or so between us. As I'm driving down the road, I'm looking out to the right. I'm looking for a runoff that I can duck into and stay out of sight. Nothing. Not even a small enough clearing to drive on without any damage to this wonderful beast of a machine. I keep the pace steady, and it seems that we are gaining ground on the truck behind us. I think we have the all clear and decide to slow down to a safe speed. As I drop it down to 40, I feel sweat pouring down my arms and torso. I have a few curves ahead that take a bit of fancy driving to make through it. But we did, and came across a long stretch of road. We breathe a sigh. For a few moments we ride the road in silence. We make it about another half mile or so, and then behind us come these bright freaking lights that are right behind my line of vision. "Shh," I say as I kick the gas more. I throw the camera to Hulk and turn on my lights and throw it into the next gear, not giving a darn if we hit sand or whatever is ahead. I had to lose these guys. We make it 100 feet or so in front of this high-risk little dick-driving piece of fecal matter that doesn't even belong in the sewer drain. The guys behind us in their truck with the top lights were firing at us as we were trying to dodge their shots. Knowing that they may only hit 1% of their shots, I still don't want to take a chance. We get down about a quarter of a mile, and the tracks are ahead. While the Stank starts to slow down, it creeps along to the tracks and loses full power. Well, my car is sitting on a third of the tracks, and a ton of inbred nutjobs right behind us firing at every chance they get. "Get out and push, dang it!" I yell at no one. I drop the gear into neutral, and we run behind the car, and we hear the ricochet of the bullets hitting all around. "Don't hit old Sally," I say. We push back on the back of the car like we have nothing left to give. It isn't going anywhere fast. We hear the loud blowing of a train whistle. We look to the direction that the sound came from, and we see an odd light in the distance that is neither here nor there. But we bust a gut trying to move this car. And of course I get a foot of loose sand and end up on my face, on the trunk hood, and slouching, trying to get a foothold while I keep my hands on the bumper, trying to push with all my might. I feel the car start to slowly move forward. The light from the train gets brighter, and the roar starts to get louder in my ears. I can see Hope pushing and straining with all his might, and we should go so that we don't get blown apart by the oncoming train, and trying in vain not to get hit by any random bullets behind us. We finally get over the tracks as I literally hit the dust again. By this time, my mouth looks like it just threw up a stomach of blood. Crimson liquid dripped in a small stream from my face. I yelled out as loud as I could, and Hulk let out a guttural sound that seemed louder than the train that was closing in at an incredible pace. We had to keep our gumption up and bust through. As the roar and the bullets seemed to hit close, We finally get a full push, as if there were more than just Hulk and I. It's like these kids that were taken out by the train all those years ago were trying to help us. As we push through, Hulk throws a last push that he can to get us far enough ahead of the train that we won't become a stain on this earth. The train roared and swooshed by. The train hit Hulk in the back of his leg and sent him sprawling over onto the ground slightly ahead of us. He was still, and the roar was loud. My heart froze in terror. "Hulk!" I screamed, and all the sounds around me went silent as I run to him. He slowly starts to move and finally gets to his knees. "Get to the car!" he yelled, as he jumps up with some kind of enthusiasm that I hadn't seen before. We both clamber and get ourselves to the car. We both jump in the best we can. As I slam it into drive and halt butt, with the door slamming shut with the force, the first part of our ride of Old State Road was silent. We rode in Old Sally, and we just listened to the radio and faded away. It helps to keep our sanity. You know I want to make you happy, so I'm about to play something snappy. So get out your air guitar and don't forget you're a star. So enjoy these next tunes and dance all the way to the moon. Ride boldly, ride.